Welcome to the Real Freedom Podcast, where we inspire you to pursue your passion to gain time and financial freedom through opportunities in real estate. I'm your host, Mike Swenson. Let's get some real freedom together. All right, welcome everybody. We have a new episode of Real Freedom Stories. I am your host, Mike Swenson, and today we get to talk with Nicole Wilhelm, and she has such a cool story to share. From hopeless and homeless to a millionaire entrepreneur, you and your husband have a lot of stuff going on. So Nicole shared with me her husband was previously a poker player, professional poker player. And so you're one that takes risks. So you have a real estate team that did $65 million in production last year. You have some investment properties, some development. You also had mentioned that you do a lot in cryptocurrency. So we're going to talk about cryptocurrency. And then one of the things that you're passionate about is just mental health, taking care of your mental real estate in addition to physical real estate, which I know is important. There's so many people that have struggles in the industry, burnout, stress, challenges that they face. And so making sure that your mind is right is really important to you. So we'll cover that as well. So welcome, Nicole, to the show. We're so excited to have you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for having me. It's such a pleasure. And if I can do anything to help someone in their journey to financial freedom, I'm here for it.
Why don't we just go ahead and talk a little bit about your background to get started? So you are in the Bay Area in California, Sacramento, San Francisco area.
Yeah. So I think a great way to start this story is, so my mom is from the Philippines and my dad's from Indiana. Mm-hmm. They met each other.
A natural spot for people to meet, right? Indiana in the Philippines, why not?
Right. They actually met in Vegas, and then 2 weeks after knowing each other, they decided they wanted to get married. I bring that up because for the longest time, I thought I was going to be a diplomat or an ambassador. Mm-hmm. But I found out very quickly that we were going to war when I was in college, and I was like, yeah, I'm good. And so my mom was like, well, if you're going to do anything, you have to get an education. And I was like, okay, cool. So I got my bachelor's at Hawaii Pacific University. And then I got my master's at Golden Gate University in integrated marketing communication. And then I worked my way up. I became a VP of marketing at a startup very quickly. And then I looked around and was like, oh my God, all these people are trading their time for money. None of them really have families. If they do have families, they never see them. You don't really have control over how well you do, because it's based on how well your team does. And at the time we were going up against Uber and Lyft, and I was like, there is no way we're going to win unless we move fast, because we were in a taxi hailing company. And I was like, taxi cab drivers do not want to change how they do business, because this is how they've been doing it forever. And my husband, my fiance at the time, was like, hey, we should go into business together. I do like tech sales, you do marketing, and we would crush it. And I'm like, you think so? Okay, yeah, let's try it. So I decided to get my real estate license. And the first 3 years, it sucked. I didn't make any money. There was times I had to tell my landlord, like, JK, don't have it. But I would say after like the 5th year, it just took off, right? Things skyrocketed. We went from having just ourselves and an assistant to then running a team of about 5, which is where we're at now. And now we do from the Bay Area all the way to Sacramento. And I'm so glad that my husband was like, look, we should go in and do it for ourselves, because now looking back, I can't imagine not having control over my destiny, and then working with someone such as my husband, because I don't trust anyone more than him.
It is interesting, because I was raised in a family where I lived in a small town. There was kind of one major employer, and you worked there until you retired, and that was kind of what was normal. And so that mindset, it's, I didn't realize that there were people that didn't really do that, until I went to school and majored in entrepreneurship. And that was before people knew what the word entrepreneurship was. I remember when I told people that's what I was going to major in, they're like, what is that? And yet at the same time, I didn't take a risk right out of college. I went and worked at a job for a while before I could get up enough courage to make that leap. So it is tough and it is challenging, and getting in started in real estate is really hard. And that's why, 85% of the people quit and get out, because you have to, I tell my team, you have to stick it out long enough till the pieces fall in place and it kind of all clicks and takes off. And for some people that does take time. You don't always have instant success, but once you figure out all the opportunity that's in real estate and you find a way to go get it, that's where your life can take off.
For sure. Yeah. And I was meaning to ask you, what is it like to study entrepreneurship in St. Thomas?
So St. Thomas is the college in Minnesota, not.
I thought it was like St. Thomas, like the island. I was like,
no.
Oh, can I come?
Yeah. Well, so here's the funny thing. When you got accepted, I'm sure they still don't do it now because that was a long time ago. When you got accepted, they give you a t-shirt and it says St. Thomas. And then in parentheses below it says not the island. So that's funny that, they actually play off of that. St. Thomas, not the island. So so in Minnesota, it's a private college. But when I talked to my parents about going there, I said, look, this is what I want to go into. I knew I wanted to go into business. And they had won an award for their master's program that year for being the best program in the nation. I said, look, this is a place where I can go get a good education, and learn a lot about it. I would say, there's a lot of kind of general business principles that you learn. But a lot of my friends, a lot of my classmates went and started businesses or took over the family business after they graduated. And I went back to still need that stable paycheck, the 401k, the benefits, and all of that. And it took time before I saw other people out there doing things where it's like, okay, Mike, you got to take this risk sometime if you're going to, have those opportunities. And it still is a challenge. And yet at the same time, I'm excited to go do what I want to do, how I want to do it, and really build the life that we want to live, which is kind of what this podcast covers. So, so why don't you talk a little bit then about the investment side, the development side? So in addition to running your sales business, your real estate sales business, what's some of the other stuff that you're working on?
Yeah, I mean, I am a huge proponent of building generational wealth. And one of the things that I really am adamant about is investing. And not only investing in your business, investing in yourself. And we look at the residential sale side of our business as a vehicle to be able to funnel money for, right now we're doing a development in Berkeley. It's a duplex. We took it down to the studs. And we are actively working on bringing it up to value. And from the time that we purchased it, it was $700,000. Nobody would touch it with a stick. It's like the ugliest house on the block.
And 700,000. I mean that's basically a garage where you live, right?
It is.
Yeah.
And it looks like that haunted house that like everybody just like looks at and is like, who and why would you buy it? We just gravitated to it. It was built in 1980 or 1880. And the reason why it was so important for us to purchase is because we knew if we held on to it, that it would be something of value. And so now the current value of the home is around 2.5, which is amazing. And so we'll use that money to then either create a fund to purchase more real estate, or to invest more heavily into cryptocurrency.
No, that's awesome. I mean, you could see the value of hanging on to an asset. And I think that's a key thing for people to understand is, in addition to rental properties that you purchase, we always talk about, you've got the appreciation and the cash flow benefits. You also have the tax benefits, the depreciation, things like that. But then too, it also provides leverage. You can go take a home equity line of credit. Now, at the same time, this isn't financial advice, right? Because sometimes home values can go down. We're in a period where that hasn't happened, but being able to leverage the assets you have to go gain additional leverage and gain more assets is what's really important. And so, you have the ability now to use that asset to be able to go acquire more assets.
Yeah, and it's scary. That's the
Mhm.
part that most people don't tell you, right? It's terrifying. When we purchased it, we're like, oh my gosh, is this something that we can undertake while also, running a real estate business? But I would say that if you lean into the fear and and that's something we'll talk about after this, which is mindset. If you go into it
Mhm.
with the right mindset and know why you're doing it, I think it's easier to figure out the how that way. And so for
Mhm.
us, we're like, okay, I want to make sure we have a daughter. Her name's Olivia. I want to make sure that I set up a foundation that
Mhm.
Olivia can springboard off of, right? Where
Right.
she can then say, oh, okay, I learned how to develop a property at 5.
Right.
I've seen these things before. And I think once you have been exposed to um, wealth generating activities at a very young age, it makes it easier to then pass it down to your kids. And so for us, we knew that by us taking a risk now would be worth it. Like I always do the rocking chair test with my husband and I go, is this going to be the story that we're in a rocking chair and then all the grandkids come and they go, oh my gosh, Grandma Nicole, I can't believe like you did a development in a pandemic. What?
Mhm.
Crazy. We're so thankful because now we're able to go to college or do all these other things. So I would say if anyone's listening and they have that fear,
Mhm.
definitely do an analysis to make sure that it makes financial sense for them, but also always focus on the why they're doing it, because that can carry you a lot further than people think.
Mhm. And they'll say, "Houses only cost $700,000? I can't believe that." I think when my parents bought their first house, it was 40,000, maybe 50,000, or maybe it was less than that. But yeah, I mean, you look back, and then two interest rates, back then were 15%. And
Right.
so, we've had a bump here. We were in a spot where rates were so low that, you still have to remember people bought houses at 15% interest rates and were okay with that because it used to be 18% or higher. So you've got your sales business, you've got the development project you took on. You also said you had some buy and hold investments that you've accumulated over time or have done some of those, right?
Yeah, yeah. We have a place in Pleasant Hill. We have a place in Berkeley. And so for the listeners are like, where is that? It's about 20 minutes from San Francisco
Mhm.
to Daly City. It's about 45 minutes maybe from San Francisco to Pleasant Hill. It's
Mhm.
located in the East Bay. Those are something that we're just keep because one thing that I tell my sellers, which is very counterintuitive, is the only regret that I have sellers have is not anything other than that, man, I wish I didn't sell. So I say, if you're
Mhm.
going to sell, make sure that you're going to put this money to work for you somewhere else, either
Right.
in another real estate purchase, cryptocurrency, the stock market, whatever. Just make sure that you're just not cashing out and then you're gonna, I don't know, buy rims or a great sound system, or you'll just spend it on random things. So for us, we know that we want to have a diverse portfolio, right? Because it's great to make huge gains when it comes to, doing a flip or development, but it's also important to have something, at least for us in our portfolio, that's more of a buy and hold so that, if we need to, I don't know, when Olivia's older and she needs to go to college, we don't want to take from our other investments. We can use the rental money then to pay for her college
Mhm.
or whatever she may need in the future. Or even for us, if we need long-term care, we can always pull from those investments.
Yeah. And I know it's hard because people want the liquidity of money sometimes, and yet because of the appreciation of the homes in the market there, you have to find something better than that to pull your cash out because otherwise it could sit in a bank account for 0.5% or less than that. And if houses are appreciating at 15, 20, 25%, go find an investment that does better than that. And for a lot of people, that's challenging to do. You're actually going to lose money by cashing out on that asset. So you've got to find a way to strategically put your money to keep that money working for you. So let's dive into cryptocurrency a little bit then. So you have jumped in, you're all in, and you're doing it. How did you get started, and when did you get started with that, and why?
Such a great question. So I had a client who was in the cryptocurrency space about 5 years ago,
Hmm.
and she and her boyfriend were moving from San Francisco to the East Bay. And I said, okay, great. Do you have a down payment? All the normal questions that you ask as a real estate agent. And she goes, no, I don't have my down payment yet, but I'm working on it. And I'm like, okay, how are you going to work on it from the time that we, find you a place and you have to write an offer? Like, that's pretty
Mm-hmm.
tight, right? Because things go quickly in the Bay Area. She goes, oh, I'm day trading cryptocurrency. And at the time, we just had never heard of it. And we're like, what does that even mean? And so she sat me down and she goes, I taught myself how to day trade. I'm now in the space. I'm at a job where she was like in engineering
Mm-hmm.
for a cryptocurrency space. And I watched her save a ridiculous amount of money by investing in crypto. And I go, look, I don't know what you're doing. I hope it's legal. Like, but this is crazy. How did you come
Mm-hmm.
up with a down payment for, at the time her place was like, I don't know, $700,000. I was like, how did you come up with it so quickly? And she said, I invested in, and then she went through all the different things that she was invested in. She would sit down with us and would say, hey, look, I have my family on an investment plan and strategy. We started treating it as a game. And now we have text threads where we go, how much did you gain today? How much did you lose? What did
Mm-hmm.
you learn from it? How are you pivoting? And then it really caused us to say, that's something we want to implement within our own family so that we can spread it out to our more extended family. And then again, really focusing on building generational wealth. And so we
Mm-hmm.
started creating it as a game. And then we watched our portfolios like catapult. And don't get me wrong, like you're going to have days where you're going to look and be like, oh my God, why did I invest in cryptocurrency? What was wrong with the S&P 500?
Mm-hmm.
Like, or what was wrong with just like putting it in the bank? Because there is huge gains and huge losses. But again, I would focus on the why, right? And having a strategy behind it, because as long as you have benchmarks, or you have, okay, when this happens, this is going to happen, like, a cause and effect, I think it's easier for people to analyze or to make rational decisions. It's harder when you're just like, oh my God, I lost a whole bunch of money. That's it. I'm done. I'm never coming back. And I think a lot of my husband and I joke, because we watched Black Panther and they talk about having like vibranium, right? And that's like the
Mm-hmm.
strongest metal you can have. And we always talk about, you need to have vibranium hands. Like, you know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? Like, you have to hold on and you have to be strong. So I would say for us, in cryptocurrency, we're in it for the long game. We know a lot of people want to make short-term gains and then be done, but for us, we look at it as the future of the way that we will now do transactions, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
especially because of COVID, I think people are going to get away from actually giving out paper money. There are theories about how there is not a lot of backing in paper money, and so I just think, if you can, I would invest even a little bit in it and hold, and just see where it takes you. There are
Mm-hmm.
countries that are also now using cryptocurrency to pay either their governmental employees, or there's like different organizations that are doing payment through crypto. I just think it's the wave of the future.
Yeah. Well, and I think for people listening that, you've been in it a while, so you're sold on it. For people that are hesitant to try something new, I think there was a period where people thought, is this going to last? Is this just a fad? Is this like, um, um, I'm trying to think like Beanie Babies or something like that, where it's like, hey, I'm putting all my money into Beanie Babies and, we're going to save for your kids' college because I'm going to sell them all.
Right.
So I think there's people, that had we're looking from a side, like, is this thing really going to last? And what we've learned is it is. And at the same time, this isn't just unicorns and rainbows, where I'm putting my money in and, magically it turns into something else. And now I've got a ton of money or I have no money. And
Right.
so I think people understanding, people a little bit older, right? Because the younger generation is going to naturally dive into this, but people who are a little bit older, there still is a lot of opportunity to be had there. And you have to force yourself to get a little bit uncomfortable and learn something new, because you can reap the benefit of that. And yeah, there's volatility just like stocks, right? You know, when you're in stocks, you're either day trading to make money or you're playing the long game with the stocks that you're choosing. You can't go up and down based on what happens that day. And cryptocurrency is that to a degree of 10x or 100x. And yet at the same time, like you said, it's here. We're going to invest in it. We're playing the long game. And the faster you learn this now and go through the growing pains, the more opportunity there is for you to reap that reward in the future.
For sure. And another question I get is like, how do you have the money to invest? And so I would say if you can take at least, I don't know, whatever you can part with 1%, 5%, 10%, and be consistent about it. And every month put in that same amount of money, you'd be surprised how much money you'll have at the end. And that's regardless if you do cryptocurrency or if you do stock market,
Mhm.
just anything is making that investment. And I would say not only do that in the physical realm, but also in your mental real estate, right? Also, like invest in yourself in that same way as well. Make those deposits in your way of thinking, because
Mhm.
that's where it actually all starts. Is just one is what is your money blueprint? Like Tony Robbins talks about it. How do you view money? Do you think you can make money? When
Mhm.
you have money, do you think you can keep money? And is it something that you feel like your family can benefit from for generations if you were to have it? And I think once you set your mind on that, then it's easier to look at like, okay, is it cryptocurrency? Is it real estate? Is it,
Mhm.
the stock market, or is it a blend of all of them? Because again, your why is very clear. I think when your why is like muddled, where you're like, I mean, I guess it would be cool to make more money, maybe, then it's harder to make the decision of I want to make an investment.
Yeah, and I think that's a natural transition to now talk about the mental aspect because, like you talked about, right? I'm investing in my mindset. I'm investing in my mental health because that is going to impact what happens in the future. And taking time to figure out something. Cryptocurrency is a great example of that. Like either I'm going to be scared of it, I'm going to think it's a fad and is going to go away and maybe miss out on some opportunity. But then there's also the balance. There's a legitimate balance of shiny object chasing because as realtors, they tend to chase shiny objects. You know, you might chase 100 things and one of them sticks. I still remember this quote. I heard it maybe like 5 years ago. If you want to become a millionaire, find a product to sell to a realtor for $9.99 a month because realtors will buy stuff at for only $9.99 or $9.99 a month. And I'm meaning $9.99 a month. If you went and found enough realtors to spend $9.99 a month on some product that they forget that is even on their card, you'll become a millionaire. So you could do that, or you could lean into some of these things that are challenging to learn, right? Because cryptocurrency is different. And yet you come with a great mindset of, I'm going to figure this out. I see the future of where it's going. You had the luxury of having somebody that you knew that was in the space. But if you aren't in the space, find somebody who is, learn from them, take the time. It's an investment of my time to learn about it, to be able to make an investment of my money to make money off of it. But I think that's great. So let's talk about kind of the mental health, the mindset piece. Why are you so passionate about it, and how have you seen that play out in your life to help you grow and get where you're at today?
So I'm preparing to do a TEDx talk about mental real estate, because
Hmm.
being a real estate entrepreneur, I've seen so many people focus on the real estate that you can buy and sell, and they're not focusing enough on the mental real estate they already own. And
Hmm.
I can personally say that I wasn't paying attention to my mental real estate for a long time. There was a time where I was a worrier,
Hmm.
and I worried about everything. And I would play this game of like worst case scenario every single day, right? I'd be
Hmm.
like, oh man, maybe I'll cross the street and I'll get hit by a car and that'd be horrible. And then like, I don't know, my parents would be devastated. And I would just play these like negative loop cycles and not recognizing that it was because I was watching the news all the time. I would listen to music that I thought I was just listening to the beat, but when you listen to the lyrics, they were skewing toward being very negative. Um,
Hmm.
and when I was 19, my parents were like, look, Um, we think you have so much potential and we love to see you soar, but from our experience, the only way to truly soar is um, to basically gain your wings on the way down. And I go, wait, what?
Mhm.
Oh, wait, what? You want me to fail? What? And so they gave me $100. They packed up a cardboard box and they said, you can move wherever you want to, but you can't stay here. And so I was
Mm.
like, I don't know, Hawaii. And so that's how I ended up homeless at 19 in Hawaii.
Yeah.
And the song that I would continue to play or sing to myself while I was living in an active office building was Kanye West's song Spaceship. I don't know if you're familiar with it.
Mm-mm.
Oh, it basically goes, I've been working this grave shift. I ain't made shit. I wish I could buy me a spaceship and fly. And so I would play it over and over and over in my head.
Mhm.
And then there was the time where I looked around and I saw all these happy people on the beach in Hawaii. And I was like, why is that not me?
Mhm.
What is it about me that like I had such bad luck? Right. And then I go, wait, or if I could change my mindset and wait, what if it was reverse? And I played the best case scenario game and
Mhm.
I'm in Hawaii and I'm, and I'm living my best life or whatever it was. And I would play it, I would do it every day, at least
Mhm.
5 minutes a day, not recognizing that it was visualization.
Yeah.
And then eventually I ended up moving back to Hawaii with my husband to finish college. And we laughed because I was like homeless at this place like 3 or 4 years ago. And now I'm finishing college. And then
Mhm.
I want to say like 2 years ago, we got our parents an all expense trip to go with us to Hawaii. And it
Mhm.
was a very different experience. And my husband asked me, what is it about you that has changed? What who were you then and who are you now? And I said, I think I've always been this person, but I was unfolding into the person that I have always been.
Mhm.
But a lot of it was that I um I was like an absentee homeowner, right? Like I just wasn't there. I wasn't making
Mhm.
the investments necessary in order to have the appraisal value, right? That everybody wants. Everybody who thinks their house is worth more than what it really is, but I wasn't doing the home improvements necessary. And when I say
Mhm.
home improvements, it's like reading positive books every day. It's
Right.
depending on what your religious background is or spirituality, I wasn't like being in touch with the source, right? I wasn't doing all the things that I know now that fuel me. That I would say if you if you I called it a mental recession, right? If you are
Mm.
currently in a mental recession, what I would highly suggest is start to invest in yourself because Jim Rohn is someone that I adore. He had a quote that said, "When you work hard on your business, you make a living, right? When you work harder on yourself, you make a fortune." And when that like really hit me and struck me, like I said, my whole life changed. And now when people ask me like, oh, how are you doing, I'm like, I'm blessed and highly favored. Like there's just I don't know, like
Mhm.
that's why some people think like, oh, you're so positive all the time, and it isn't that. I'm just grateful.
Yeah.
I'm grateful for the mindset, I'm grateful for the opportunities versus looking at the shortcomings or the downfalls.
No, it is really important to focus on certain things that, whether it's a word or a phrase, like you said, or a song that can keep you solidified in a tough situation and can help encourage you. When you had talked about the Kanye West song, what popped into my head was when we got married. The it was my wife's old youth pastor that had done our ceremony, and he actually lived in Walnut Creek at the time and flew back for our wedding. But the message was be strong and very courageous. And so he would always say BSCV, BSCV. And so, I've been married for 16 years now. And when I'm struggling, when my mental mindset is down, like I said, I'm not a natural risk taker. So when I take a risk and quit my W-2 job and start a real estate team, like there's challenges there. And I keep coming back to, BSCV, be strong and very courageous. BSVC, BSVC, be strong and very courageous. And so it's that sort of thing that helps pull you through. And like you said, for you it's a song. and you go through life and you have these different things that you can cling on to. But I also remember growing up, we were taught garbage in, garbage out, right? So if you're feeding yourself garbage, that's going to process through your mind, and garbage is going to come out. So it is important to focus on, what am I feeding my mind? And real estate, we all go through challenges, and that's why there's a lot of people in the real estate space that focus on mindset, and in all industries, but we talk about it so much. We talk about it on our team. What are you feeding your mind? Because that's going to be what helps you to grow. So I love the concept of mental real estate. It's awesome.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. And it's funny because most people, they don't think about their mental real estate, and how it can go in cycles, right? So just like physical real estate, you have a recession, you have a recovery, expansion, and hypersupply. People, I feel like if they could just relate that to their mental real estate, then they could go, oh my gosh, I am in a recession, or I'm in recovery, or I'm in expansion phase, or even like hypersupply, right? You're always in, you're you're either, what was it, Les Brown said it, you're either in it, you're going through it, or you're leaving it. And I would say like that's how it is for a recession, right? So if you
Mhm.
think that, oh, this does not apply to me, like if you're listening right now and you're like, I'm never going to be in a mental recession or depression, or that's far behind me. That's happened to me before. Like it's going to happen again. Like spoiler
Mhm.
alert, it's going to happen again. And I think it's really about having those daily deposits. Like, you have a phrase that you say,
Mhm.
or having a morning routine, right?
Yep.
Where this is something you do every single day to prime your mind. Because as real estate agents, or even real estate entrepreneurs, I feel like we don't spend enough time investing in ourselves when our clients, they like, it's transmutation. They send you the energy that they're feeling, you have to hold it, right? You
Mhm.
cannot give it back in the way that they gave it to you. You have to transmute it and go, oh, the energy you're feeling may seem like anxiety, it's really excitement, right? Let's help
Mhm.
you by giving you the steps that you could do. But if you don't take the energy that they gave you and put it somewhere, or like move it around, you're
Mhm.
sitting. And the more
Yep.
business you do, the harder it's going to get, where you start to see real estate agents who are top producers, but they don't care about their health. They're divorced. They're no longer in touch with, their spirituality.
Mhm.
They're drinking or doing drugs or all of these different things, because they didn't set up that routine, or they didn't have those things that really grounded them. I call it like your foundation.
Yeah, and if you think about it, if you were to ask people, what's one of the most stressful times in your life, it's when they're buying and selling a house. And so you're dealing with people probably at their worst emotionally, um, physically, because they're staying up late. We had a client that, was fixing up their house. And so they were up till midnight every night for, 7 to 10 days, because they were doing some repairs, they're packing. I had a client last year, they moved from a different state. So they're packing everything, they're selling their house, packing up their van and driving across the country. And so it's like all these things where these people are at their most stressful moments, and these are the people that you're talking to as your regular day, is dealing with these people in these high stress situations. And then you've got the deadlines of closings, and this happens or that happens. We had a closing delayed because FedEx plane in California had some mechanical issues, and so the documents didn't arrive the day for closing, so it got delayed a day. Well, then those buyers were trying to sell it, or they were the sellers of the house. We represented the buyers. Um, the sellers couldn't buy their next house because our closing was held up, and so then you've got this chain reaction of things. Like, it is a very stressful business. And I think too, just giving yourself grace to recognize that, instead of feeling like I'm just a firefighter spraying water on everything to try to calm it all down. Like, realizing that's a natural part of my job, and it's okay to feel stressed, but then where is that stress going? How am I filling up my cup so that I'm not just spilling all over everybody? And you take one call from a stressed client, and now you blast the next person you talk to, or you're short with the next person because you're frustrated about the thing that happened 5 minutes ago. It's difficult. So yeah, recognizing that, and pouring into yourself, and then two, investing in yourself. it's okay to spend money to go to a session that works on your mindset, or to take an online course, or to go to a conference that focuses on your mental health. How do you um, grow your mindset? Tony Robbins, great example of, it can cost a pretty penny to go to a Tony Robbins conference. And yet at the same time, how much more can you gain and grow as an entrepreneur as the result of the lessons that you receive from something like that?
Yeah. And I would just add, who are you meeting when you're there too? Right.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's really about fellowship, and proximity is power. And for me, one of the ways that got me out of being in a mental recession is I changed the company that I was with, right? The friends that I hung out with. I looked for people that caused me to stretch and grow. I started looking at, how do I become a person of value?
Mm-hmm.
How can I be a go-giver? Right. And then, like I said, my whole life changed. And I feel like um, if you feel like if you feel like it's selfish to invest in yourself, and that's how I started, right? I looked at it as, well, how much more can I give if I did invest in myself, right? Because if,
Mm-hmm.
to your point about having, a full cup, I can only give what's running out of my cup, what's
Mm-hmm.
flowing out of my cup. I can't give you
Right.
what's in my cup. I need that,
Mm-hmm.
And so I would highly encourage you, if you're listening to this, is to be selfish, to be self-full, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because who else do you want to be full of? And then how can you give to others if you don't have an overflow?
We've been in a challenging time the last 2 years. And so more than ever, I think people are feeling the lasting effects of what's happened the last 2 years. I remember, when it was so funny to think when, when COVID happened in March or whatever, and to think like, oh my gosh, my kids have to do distance learning for 3 months or 4 months, like, and we were worried about their relationships then. Now we're about almost 2 years into this thing. And so what was normal is gone. And so we're creating the new normal, and we're never going to go back to how it was. And what helped me through that time too is people said, do you really want to go back to how it was? We're moving forward. What's happened in the past is in the past. We got to look and move forward. And so I just love your message of mental real estate, taking care of it, investing in it, just like you're swinging a hammer on a fixer upper to improve the resale value of a home. You're investing in your mindset, you're investing in your programming to grow your mindset, to grow your mental real estate, so that it's appraising, right? We want it to have that high appreciation rate for our mental real estate, right?
Yeah, and it's funny, like I had somebody ask me, but like, how do you know the value, right? Only, and what's great about being working on your mental real estate, you are the appraiser. Only
Mm-hmm.
you know what the mental, return on investment is, or whatever your where you were to where you are. Like I would say, do comps on yourself, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like go ahead and do a comparative market analysis of where you were and where you are now, and you
Mm-hmm.
would be surprised if you're really doing those deposits. If you're really, working on your fixer upper, you'd be
Mm-hmm.
surprised of how much value you've gained and how much value you could be to other people. And I think that's, for me, Mr. Rogers is someone that really stands out because he was
Mm-hmm.
such a great neighbor. If you don't do it for yourself, do it for other people. Make
Mm-hmm.
sure that you're doing it so that we have a better global community, right? Invest in yourself so that our kids have a better future. Because I feel like if people just did a little, just a little self work or homework, and I know it's difficult, and you don't want to have to uncover or unlearn. I think we talked about that earlier. If you're older, you get comfortable, right?
Mm-hmm.
Lean into being uncomfortable, right? Being comfortable, being uncomfortable, and I promise you, your life will change for the better. It's even better than you expected. It always is.
That's great. Well, thank you so much, Nicole, for sharing a lot that we covered. We talked about real estate and investments and cryptocurrency and mental health. We could do an episode on any one of those topics just by itself. So thank you so much for coming on and sharing your background with people. If folks want to learn more about you or connect, what would be a great way to do that?
Yeah, such a great question. I would say you can go to our website. It's thewilhelmteam.com. You can visit us on Instagram. It's the Wilhelms. That's spelled WILHELM for my last name. So thank you. It's been a pleasure. And I hope that at least one person will get something out of this and invest in themselves and then find us, 5, 10, 15 years from now and say that their life is better because they earned it.